workshop order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Howard, roll call, please.
Mr. Bushy. Here. Mr. McGeehan. Here. Dr. Frick. Here. Mr. Gerhart. Here. Mr. Linder. Here. Mr. Sensenig. Here. Mrs. Walker.
Here.
Mr. Claire.
Here. Thank you. Just want to announce that the April 11th school board meeting is being held in the district office. It is open to the public and is also being streamed virtually, as all the board meetings are. Tonight's meeting was basically to select our 9th school board member, but we do have a few things that we're going to take care of prior to that. Also announced that we had a executive session this afternoon, 6:15, and had to do with personnel items. All right, do we have anybody behind me? Anybody have anything to say? Welcome to the board. All right, you have approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
questions? All in favor? Aye. Number 4, need a motion for the approval of the March 28th school board minutes.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Question? All in favor? Aye. So moved. Now we're good. Again, we have recognition of visitors and public comment, and there's
I
none.
would like to read something from Bill Gates,
Mhm.
who we got the diploma for. He was supposed to graduate in 1945, but then went to serve in World War II. And he asked me to share this, so I wanted to share it with all of you. Superintendent Axe, Principal Whitesell, Vice Superintendent, and School Board. This is a message from my father. Thank you very much for taking the time yesterday to present me with my diploma. I still can't believe it, and it means so much to finally have one. I appreciate you working with Mindy and the school board to get their approval also. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
And he also requested that, he didn't want to have a big to-do. He didn't want to be, wanted to be very private. And while we're on that, there again, we have, I'm sure we might have more veterans that are out there that are in their 80s. But, this will be our second one that we've awarded a diploma to. All right. Number 6, the personnel. You've all received the job descriptions for coordinator of post-secondary transition in the high school, dean of students in the middle school, and the dean of students in the high school. Do I have a motion to accept those job descriptions?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, the job description, support staff. We have a job description for communication coordinator at the district office. And we have a job description for the attendance clerk and building assistant at Barron Elementary. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I do have one question though.
Sure.
The attendance clerk, is that going to be a full-time or part-time position?
The attendance clerk?
Yeah.
It's listed as a 10-month position at this time.
Any other questions? In favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. We have a correction to the board agenda item on March 28th under personnel. And I'm going to leave Dr. Axe
Yeah, so these are,
explain what happened.
these are two staff members that are currently in positions in the district, long-term sub or longer amount of time, day-to-day sub that we are now hiring. So we just have to write that for them through the association as far as where they're at on their years and steps when they start with us under contract. So it's just a thing that helps them in the long run, way down the road in their career that we need to make right now.
You know, last month, we took a vote to hire when they already were hired
In
Yeah.
different roles,
in a
but
different role, but they went through everything else. So
yeah.
do I have a motion to correct the minutes of,
Second.
all right, anybody have any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, the approval of the agreement with School Scheduling Associates for our training session on September 28th, 2022 in the amount of $3,500. That is our substitute agency, is it not?
That's our, that's through Difference Makers. That's the main initiative. And that'll be one of the first days of school for our staff that will bring one of the Difference Maker trainers in, just to continue reinforcing that initiative that we've embraced.
You know who's coming? Did you already?
If Tracy were here, she would be able to tell us, but
So
I
you
don't.
had already booked somebody.
Yeah, we know that person's ready to go as soon as it gets approved.
I have approval for the agreement with School Scheduling Associates to have a training session on September 28th in the amount of $3,500.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any more questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. All right, upcoming school board information. Next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on April 25th at 7 p.m. Do we want to go to the district office or?
Yeah, I would say for the public to stay tuned
Oh,
that
That's
we're
right.
planning on moving meetings to the district office moving forward, just because of logistics and to open up that space for our student programs. If there would be a need to be in the middle school for any reason, we would make that adjustment, but moving forward, we're planning to be here.
So the April meeting, you want to go here?
Yes.
All right, so we'll change the April meeting to the district office. We can't supply everybody with what we need for their club programs and everything else until the high school's done. So this will help them.
And we have plenty of seating here. If you are on camera and look behind us, we have plenty of seating for the community. So
All right.
we want to give her another wait a few minutes for Q&A.
All right. That is all the information that has to be brought before the board. Before I ask for adjournment, does anybody have anything for the good? Questions? Like, I think you might want to go see a boy baseball game. You get a pitcher that started 3 times and has pitched 3 no-hitters.
Pretty good.
Right.
Give
And that's in bad weather. So, all right, nobody, motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All in favor? Aye. Business,
We still have to.
well, I know, but don't we reopen that for the special?
I would wait to adjourn to after the interviews.
Okay, we will not do that.
Yeah. Rescind the motion.
We'll do
And
that.
we'll start interviews in about 3 minutes when the candidate's ready.
Our first candidate to the school board position, Amy Fiji. Dr. Axe will be asking you the questions.
Hi, Amy, thanks for joining us tonight. So we'll get right into the questions. If you need anything repeated or you want to have a second part of the question repeated, just let me know. What's your interest in serving on the school board and what capacity would you bring to the team?
I love to serve people in general. I'm in real estate and I love to go above and beyond. So for being on the school board, this is, just to be honest, this is super scary to me. I don't, real estate's normally 1 on 3, 1 on 2. I don't like to be in front of people, but I truly want to serve and use my talents and gifts that I've been given just to blessing to this community, do whatever I can to serve on any committee, help out the students here, the teachers, staff, to help with decisions, that are made going forward for families. And I just love people. I just want to serve, and this. Sorry.
It's all right.
All right.
I don't know as far as what would be best, but I truly would love to just be out there for the community, whether that's, having a spot that you think I'd be best fit for. I love working with people, and obviously the board members, but there's something that you'd ever need to be able to go out to the community and help people who are hurting, or, whatever I can do. I want to serve on a team with anybody. I don't care which side we're on. I want to. Sorry.
That's well, it is. I mean, it's, and you sit around and see all of us looking at you, but just relax.
Sorry, I know.
Yeah, just relax.
Okay, so let's break the next question down into 2 parts. What's the greatest challenge facing our district? And then the second part is, what is our district's greatest strength?
I think the greatest challenge was, and maybe still, was just the division. Like, it was so, everybody's, I'm a peacemaker. I love to try to bring unity to others, and I just love people. So I feel like the division between just where people stood on things and just bring unity in that community. And I feel like we do have a very strong community, tight-knit community, and I think that it's growing. I mean, I think people are seeing how much passion there is from families and students, and you know, I know all of you have been through tough things and tough decisions, and my goal is to just help out in any way and be a relationship builder and a peacemaker, do whatever I can to serve our community.
Thank you. And then the second part of that is, what is our district's greatest strength?
Well, that's what I mean. I think one of our greatest strengths is the tight-knit community we have. So I meant, yeah, sorry, I should have.
Yeah.
I feel like it is one of our greatest strengths with Manheim. We have a lot of amazing families and people who care about our students and the staff. And
So this one is another multiple part question. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO? Do that part first.
well, just in general, like I said, I'm a peacemaker. I'd want to work alongside of everybody, be able to listen. I love to listen to others' sides wherever they stand, and then share my thoughts and inputs as well.
And the second part of that question, how would you respond in a circumstance in which you may not agree with the decision made by any of the other stakeholders?
I listen to their side. I try to work things out peacefully. Try to come to solution amongst the group. And if we didn't come to a conclusion that evening or whatever, I'd probably go home and pray about it. I want to do things as peacefully and calmly as possible for whatever situation we're dealing with as a team.
Next question, how should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
I think we'd want to make sure that as far as balancing them all out in a way that we can still keep those different areas for different students who get into the, as far as someone more academic, someone more sports, whatever the arts, whatever section it is, that we kind of split them so that everyone can be able to participate and have the ability to be involved in something that doesn't get cut. School district.
How would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about that information?
I would tell them I can't share the information if it's confidential, and I'm not allowed to disclose those details. It's private between the board. If it's not something we're allowed to share, I can't share it with them.
And then our last question is, why are you the best person for this position?
I will do it with my whole heart. I mean, I don't feel like I'm the smartest person out there, but I love people and I serve with my whole heart. I'd give it my all.
If you have any questions for us, you do have a little bit of time. Yeah. All right. Well, I can just share the rest of the process. We still have 6 other candidates to interview. You're welcome to stay and listen to their responses, or if you would like to wait in one of our offices until we deliberate, Ginny would come and get you at that time. So that's completely up to you. But we appreciate your time and your interest in our board.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Amy, the deliberation probably won't start till 8:30. Be a little bit of a time.
Ask questions or no?
If you have a follow-up on the question that we have, yeah.
Not really, but I could ask the same to each candidate if that is necessary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering if you could share about your family and if you have like kids in the district or.
Yes. Yes, I'm married to my amazing husband, Ben, for 25 years this May. We have 3 kids, Caitlin, who's 17, James, who's 15, and Sophia, 7. And I grew up in Manheim. I live out near LCBC. My parents have an apartment that they bought from his parents. And I live off the family farm. My parents gave my older brother Scott and I land. I was a Seagrist. I grew up in this community, played soccer, watched my brothers play football and wrestle. So I love Manheim.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Or I can add a background question at the beginning here. That's probably good.
You want to add that to your list?
Yeah, I'll do a background questioning.
I didn't have to do all that.
Right.
All you gotta do is go get signatures.
Hello.
Jordan,
Hi,
how are you?
good, how are you?
Good. This is Jordan Blank for the rest of the board. Dr. Axe will be asking the questions tonight.
Thanks for coming, Jordan. We appreciate your interest in the board.
Nice to meet you.
Just to start, we did have a really good question from one of our board members for our last candidate, so we're going to ask everyone that. Just give us a little bit about your background, connection to Mannheim, family, any of that type of thing you want to share.
I'm a lifelong Mannheim resident. I graduated from Mannheim Central High School. My family has lived in Mannheim for generations. You go way back here. I'm married. I have 2 children in the school district, a daughter in 2nd grade and a son in kindergarten out to run.
Thank you. Next question is, what is your interest in serving on the school board and what capacity would you bring to the team?
I'm very interested in serving the school board. I was interested in before. I just never took the steps to go ahead and get on the school board. I'm very available. I have a very set schedule, but it is flexible if I need time off. So I can dedicate whatever time is needed to helping out with the board. I'm willing to serve on any committee that I would be needed for.
That's the second part of the question. What capacity would you bring to the team?
I can serve on any committee that I would be needed. I'm, interested in the CTC programs, the IU13. My son went through the IU13 for some speech lessons. So whatever capacity you guys would need me in, I would be available for.
Next one is a 2-part question. The first part, what is the greatest challenge facing our district? And the second part, what is our district's greatest strength?
As far as the greatest challenge, I think it's just finding our way through these difficult times. We obviously went through a very difficult last 2 years. The board has obviously changed several members here, and I think that's a great thing. Just finding the way to make our way through everything and, accommodate everybody, make everybody feel comfortable in our district. I think it's probably just our biggest challenge and just finding the middle ground for everybody to do what's right. As far as our strength, I have to say our biggest strength is our community. I mean, I love this town. I always have. I think our community is extremely strong. We rally together, whenever there's something going on, just Mannheim community rallies together, not only with our own community, but our neighboring communities. I mean, just we've supported, Warwick through their difficult times. And I feel like there is nothing else that can compare to our community.
Thank you. So the third question, there's 2 parts, so I'll ask it in 2 parts. First part, how do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
I feel I would work very well. I can get along with just about anybody. I know a couple of the members, not necessarily personally or real close, but I know who they are. And I feel like I can work with anybody, get along with them and, I feel like I can work with anybody,
Okay. And then the next part of that question is, how would you respond in a circumstance in which you may not agree with the decision made by any other stakeholder?
I feel like it's like anything where you have to discuss your differences and we have to find the middle ground, what is for, the community and for the school and for the children, is the biggest thing. Obviously the board went through some incision with some previous stuff, and we just worked it out, and you guys worked with the community. I thought that was great, and we got to a point where we got through it then.
Next question. How should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
It's hard to find the middle ground. I think we just, we're going through a lot of, we just built 2 schools. We're renovating the high school. We have a lot of, financial things going on, and it's just, you got to find that middle ground, and we have to take into consideration community input to see what is the best course of action for our school and for our community.
How would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about that information?
If something's confidential, you clearly can't, talk to that, you can't share that with them. You can try to tell them as much as you can without giving the confidential information, but obviously if there is something confidential, you cannot share it with the community or with someone asking you about it. Just simply, I would say, I can't share that with you at this time.
And then our last question is, why are you the best person for this position?
Honestly, I can't say I'm the best person because I don't know the other candidates. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, basically, I'm a lifelong Manheim person, never gonna be anything but a Manheim person. I graduated from this school. I love this school. I've always been a Baron, always will be a Baron. I have, like I said before, I have 2 children in the district, so I want to do what is best for them and what is best for the community. So that's about all I can say for why I would be a good person for this position.
And you do have some time. Do you have a question or two for us?
I can't think of any at the moment.
All right. Well, the rest of the process, we still have 5 people interview. You're welcome to stay and listen to their responses, or wait and work in one of our offices until we deliberate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan,
Yes.
deliberation will probably start around 8:30.
Okay, that's fine. I'll stay.
Thank you.
Just so the board's aware, we do have Ginny calling the candidates if this process continues to be at this pace.
He's like, I'll just take my consequence.
Hello.
Hi. So you know the consequence.
Thanks for joining us. So everybody, this is Robert Crichton. We'll get things started here with these questions. If you need anything clarified or any follow-up, please let us know. First, just share a little bit about your background, connection to Mannheim, family, any of that type of thing you want to share.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank everyone for inviting me to tonight, and I wanted to thank for everyone's investment in this board. I'm a big community supporter, and your commitment and investment is meaningful, so thank you. Yeah, I grew up in Manheim. I knew Claire when I was in high school, and he was the statistician of our football team. And I've been here for most of my life. I did go to college in Eastern PA, and then I worked in New Jersey for about 10 years. And then I came back once we had a family and needed help with the kids. So my wife is from Lancaster County as well. But we've been back about 10 years, and our kids are in the system. They're at Doe Run. I have two twin boys in 4th grade, and my daughter's in 6th grade. So attend church up at Mannheim Brethren in Christ. And again, we're just very involved with the community. So.
I'll ask you question number one.
Perfect.
What's your interest in serving on the school board, and what capacity would you bring to the team?
Yeah, so again, community is very critical. As we get older, I'm turning 50 this year. So how do I give back to the community, and how do I help raise leaders, resilient children, kids that add to our community? So, yeah, so that's where I teach Sunday school at Mannheim Beck, and I try to follow my boys because I want to make sure that they behave in class. But again, it's simple values that we pass down. So the one that I would teach the kids there is, when we're in church, we are quiet and we don't run. But again, it's everywhere. It's on the football field. It's on attending plays and musicals, but it's essentially to convey values to everyone and supporting the different activities that we have. So the capacity that I would bring, I think we're at a critical point in our district, in our county, in our country, where we have very polarized groups. And my job is, what I do today is I'm in sales, and I'm trying to convince people to take a new product. So it's a lot of convincing. It's a lot of presenting options and talking through the pros and cons. I would bring hopefully a respect to the board for opinions that you can present and make your case. But I would also expect respect for opinions that I may bring to the board. But even the community to be able to come in and present something they're passionate about. Let's listen, let's hear the points and make a decision.
Capacity, other capacity you want to share with you?
So I build business cases every day. So a lot of the financial stewardship type of topics, I could aid in that type of decision. Just in that, how do we create, to me, academic excellence is paramount. I feel success is having my kids graduate at age 18 and they're on their own journey. So how do we prepare resilient children that come out of our system? How does Mannheim Central become the leading school in the county? Things like, they're questions I wonder about. But selfishly for my family, I try to dream for my kids, how can they optimize their path? but I would love for every child. It's optimizing the career path for every child. So is that college classes in high school? Is that remote learning? I'm not sure what that recipe is. I recognize I don't have all the answers. I would be very curious about what options we have. How do we really make that best for everybody?
So question number 2 is another two-part question. What is the greatest challenge facing our district, and what is our district's greatest strength?
For sure, the strength is community support. So I feel, I look back 10 years when the young boys were in the car accident. At Manheim Vic, I think we had 400, 500 kids that were just meeting together to try to grieve that process. So community is huge here. The challenge is going to be getting everyone on board. It's a unified vision and strategy for our school. So don't leave anyone behind, but there are constraints. We can't do everything for everybody. So it's a matter of figuring out what serves the greater good.
Next question is another two-part question. I'll ask each part one at a time. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
So I had mentioned this, but respect is very important in my mind. I get frustrated if I'm speaking with someone and I get, so typically I'll quiet down and ask that person if they're finished. But I would hope that we would all be open, have an openness to everyone's ideas, give everyone the opportunity to present, advocate for their idea. But ultimately, if a decision's taken, I think that's maybe the second part, that's final, and that's collectively what is driven or decided by the board.
So just to go off of that, if a decision is made and you don't agree with it, how would you handle that with the stakeholders?
We lose occasionally in life, so that's something we deal with. And that's, again, we have a greater responsibility to the community to be unified and losing on a decision.
Next question, how should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
That's a huge question, because I know there's people on fixed income. So they're always aware of any increases in taxes, and school is, I don't know, I haven't studied what the tax rate has done for the Manheim Central School District, but again, it's being aware that we have a limited source of funds. Maybe there's models that we can explore where we have 2 different rates that are applied to the taxpayers. But which question was that again?
Number 4.
I mean, financial stewardship is paramount. But it's always going to be a dilemma, because you can't, you have to try to optimize what you can. I feel our job of explaining to the community why we take decisions, I think, is a very important task that we should perfect. Hopefully people have an open mind to that.
How would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about that information?
It's confidential. I've dealt with that all my life in my career. Something given in confidence is confidential in the story.
Our last question is, why are you the best person for this position?
So, I mean, I was very encouraged when you said there's 7 people that are here. I think that's a tribute to our community, that people understand the importance, and so it's great. So in essence, you guys have a very difficult decision, because there's very many qualified people, and I'd advocate that I would be one that would really try to vet out the big decisions and try to really build a cohesive community, further make our community stronger. So that's my nature. I want to, if someone's in a different position, I would want to really understand why they're there and try to lay out facts to try to come to a decision that might be in the middle or closer to my side. Again, that's a skill. I can bring that skill to the team. I have a diverse career that I've led. So I've been in engineering. We have in sales now. So I've encountered a lot of different people, traveled quite a bit in my life. So it's a matter of trying to be open to different ways to help build great experiences for our community. I think I can help facilitate that.
A question or two for us. We do have some time.
So I travel occasionally. Are there remote meetings? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, there is the option to join virtually. We have other board members that are sometimes in that circumstance.
Yeah, so that would probably be the only that would be problematic for me, but as much as possible.
Thank you. And again, we appreciate your interest in serving the board. We will finish the rest of the interviews and then deliberate. So you're welcome to wait here or wait out in one of our offices, and then Julie will tell you when we're deliberating. That choice is yours.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be deliberating about 8:30,
8:30.
so you know.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to take, since we're still a little bit ahead of time, I'd like to take a 5-minute restroom break.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jason Santiago. Jason, we'll start just by allowing you to share a little bit about your background, your life, role, job, anything. Questions.
My name is Jason Santiago. Grew up in Manheim. This is my hometown. Graduated from Manheim Central. I have 2 children in the district. My son is in 2nd grade and my daughter is in 7th grade. I actually worked for Manheim Central Middle School for 2 years. The 2019 to 2021 school years. I currently work at the old Burgard building for the IU13, the Central Education Center. Like I said, it's my hometown.
So what's your interest in serving on the school board and what capacity would you bring to the team?
So this is we're in the community. Bringing more of that. I have children in the district, more of that perspective of current clientele of the school through the board. As a parent, I would be able to see more of personal aspect to things. And, more just like monetary or, more of a distant relationship. Also, both of my children are autistic, so that's a big deal to me as well, making sure that the school is looking out for that kind of perspective for those students and making sure that they're spoken for. I know Jen represents that, is on the IU13 board, and that's awesome that we cover that and everything.
And any other capacity you would bring to the team?
I would want to be very approachable to the community, that they would come to me and just voice their opinions about stuff. So I know where the community stands or where they want us as a board to be moving towards. And that I wouldn't be just self-righteously seeking things for my own benefit, for my own family's benefit. I want the school to soar, be actually a symbol to other schools of what schools should be.
So what is the greatest challenge facing our district and what is our district's greatest strength?
Feel as challenge that the district is facing is supportive connections. There's a lot that goes on in Manheim, and I feel like it's separated. For instance, the school is I feel like it's separated from the community. Instead of being one with the community, we have lots of businesses here that we could reach out to and really do awesome, amazing things within our own little town of Manheim. And I feel like that opportunity is being missed. And we're not being able to connect with the parents and the kids outside of the building. Most of the summer, the buildings just sit there. I know they're getting cleaned, but there's so many things we could do within like the gymnasiums and just the school property to really make great connections. Show the community that the school really cares. I feel like that's a big opportunity that's being missed. The greatest strength is that we have a very caring community. That we get to have this school in this community. I see it all the time, social media, people reaching out for help and people are right there. There's always these charity events that are going on and people are piling in to help out. And it's just a great, loving, caring community that we get to be a part of. And the school district gets to be in the middle of that. Again, back to the whole greatest challenge. We need to get more involved as a school.
Number 3 is a 2-part question, so I'll ask each part one at a time. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
I see us working very well. I see us having the same goals, wanting the school to be strong, wanting the school to, be productive, wanting the school to be supportive of every student, not just the academically top few, but even the very bottom. Having the same mindset that every person matters.
And the second part of that question, how would you respond in a circumstance in which you may not agree with the decision made by any other stakeholder?
In that kind of circumstance, situation, I would make sure that I was well prepared to represent my standpoint. Have the information, the research that I would need to support my stance on things. And then at the end, and I would do it calmly. I have that here, calmly. And then at the end of the meeting, we would still be colleagues, we would still be friends. I wouldn't take it out on them afterwards, no meetings in the parking lot or anything like that. Just strictly business, I mean, we all have different opinions anyway. That's what makes us great, because we have diversity. We all have different ideas. We all see things differently. That's why some building plans have multiple people looking at it. You need different insights.
Second part of next question. How should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
My first response to that would be to remove waste. Go through everything and see what is needed and what it really isn't. One of my previous jobs, my boss told me that I had to print out an 18-page report every day. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is such a waste of paper. When we had a computer system that would tell us everything that we had on stock. And that's the kind of stuff I like, just for example, just removing that kind of stuff. Just because, I mean, even some positions that we might have in the school district that are not necessary. The other part of that, perhaps maybe have more volunteers from the community helping with the sports and just after school volunteering. Because I know we do pay a lot of the people to staff sports. The sports events. And I know you save a lot of money there just by having people sign up just to volunteer. Because I know a lot of people want to serve the community. Just show up and just be there, make it happen and help. Yeah, I mean, the facilities, that is more just the school job, and I honestly don't have an opinion on that. My dad was the maintenance director for a while. He retired last year, so I understand the importance of the facilities and maybe showing more respect and teaching everyone to have more respect for that.
Thank you. Next question, how would you handle confidential information if you were questioned by a community member about that information?
This is right up my alley, because I used to work in the medical field, and I'm sure a lot of you know about HIPAA. So I would obviously just treat it like HIPAA. You don't talk about it with anybody else except for those who are in the know. You don't go spreading it around. You don't spread it. You don't even talk about it out in public. What was that? Just treat it like HIPAA.
Thank you. And our last question, why are you the best person for this position?
I care about this town. I do. I care about this. This is my hometown. My parents, my dad grew up here. My grandfather and my grandmother grew up here. And my great grandmother, who I personally knew, grew up here. And it's just a great small town. I care about the community. I love helping people and making sure that everyone's heard. And especially not just for my children, but for everyone's children. I want to make sure that all the kids are being taken care of the way they need to be. Not just shoved through the school system, not just, the bare minimum being done, but everything that we can do as a community, as a school, as a town, making sure that these kids have the best possible start to their future.
All right, and then I think we have time for you. If you have one or two questions for us. Okay, so next steps, you can either wait in the audience till we get to deliberations. You still have 3 more interviews, or you can wait out in one of the offices until we start deliberating. That's up to you, but we do appreciate your investment in this process.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jason, we'll start deliberations probably around 8:30.
Thank you.
How are you? All right. So everybody, this is William Larker. Thanks for joining us. And we'll let you start out by just giving a little bit about your background, your background, and then we'll get into the questions.
I'm a 1960 graduate of Manhattan Central High School, Milledgeville University, BS in education, science. Continued with my master's degree at Milledgeville University, and my principal certificate at the University of Pennsylvania. I have a master's degree plus 60 graduate credits. And I've been at Donegal for most of my career. The 1965, I think, till 98. And I retired in 98, 80 years old, going to be next month. And I think I'd like to join the official board as an experienced person, I think.
That leads into our next question. You're interested in serving on the board, and what capacity would you bring to the team?
Well, I believe, as Thomas Jefferson stated, that educated electorate is the foundation of our democracy. That means we have to educate our children well educated so they can make the right decisions when we become adults to sustain our government. Really, an awesome job. I think I'd be a benefit on the board because I think I could help guide them to make the right decisions. One thing, I could bring my experience to the board. Children have to learn that how to get along with one another, learn the rules of our society. Fail. And, I think the teachers that we have now, I know there are problems. We try to balance the budget. It's always a tough thing to do because prices keep going up, and I believe we should favor the education of our children now in a lot of these matters. Anything else?
No, we're on to the next question. What's the greatest challenge facing our district, and what is our district's greatest strength?
I think your teachers are the greatest. sacrifice their time and effort for the good of the kids. Challenges facing this district, well, you had the COVID, and that always is a challenge because wearing masks, and you had a lot of public opposition to that, I know. You only had 19 students, I think, that got COVID over the last couple of years, so that's not too bad. Some of them died from it, which is good too. That's a concern. It's enabling our students to become constructive society members would be a challenge. I know when I was assistant principal at Donegal, I always gave a speech beginning of the year saying, you know, the teachers can't, at least, like I said, you have to do it. If you know someone's bringing drugs into the school or something like that, tell me. You can tell me in, you know, private, and we'll take care of it. I always consider myself like a farmer. You want to grow crops that are well attended in that. And sometimes we get weeds in the field, and you have to remove those weeds. And so I would let society deal with those kids. Now, we did have a program that was at-risk kids, and I think Mannheim has the same program now, which is great. You can identify these kids early, change the way they behave. It's a tough job too.
Thank you. So the next question is two parts. I'll ask the lead one at a time. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
One thing, I have no agenda. So I'm not here to get rid of anybody, or I have no special reason or agenda. But I see myself as a board member, it's a democracy. And whatever the board decides as a forum, that's it. That's the majority rules. So I can deal with that, even if it's not what I want.
And that's the next part of the question. If how would you respond in a circumstance in which you may not agree with the decision made by any other stakeholders?
Like I said, you have to go along with the majority. When I was on the Trinity EC church board, we built a parking lot behind the church, and I wanted to have an entrance right next to the building. And the board said, no, we got to do it back of the alley. Well, I didn't like that, but it's back of the alley.
Thank you. How should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
That's a tough decision. Like I said before, I think the education of our children should be a priority. And if it means raising taxes a little bit, I don't think anyone in here would object to it. I think Eton looked at that problem just recently. They were going to cut sports, they're going to cut languages and everything else. Well, they had an uproar. People came in and said, hey, raise it a little bit. We don't mind, but don't get rid of those programs. And I feel the same way.
Thank you. How would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about that information?
Information that's discussed in a private board meeting is private. So you don't discuss that with the public. If it's a public hearing and people have comments to make and you want to listen to them or make your comments, I think that's okay. But anything in private, it stays private.
And our last question, why are you the best person for this position?
Like I said before, I've been on other school boards. I've been a member of the Donegal School Board for 17 years. Trinity Church's school board, or not school board, but the church's official board for over 20 years. I'm familiar with board operations. I have experience. Be about it.
Right.
I think I can think clearly too and solve problems, which probably is helpful too on the board.
Thank you. We do have time if you have a question or two for us.
I have one or two. How long would it take the board to decide on their choice for this?
So tonight, after all the interviews, they will deliberate until they decide.
Okay.
So tonight, there will be a decision made.
And I've noticed changes in the school board recently. What controversies has the board been dealing with in the last couple of months? Because I know Linda Williams is no longer here. She was the president. I think she got voted out by people with her about her mask conditions and that. Are there any other controversies that you're aware of?
I've been here 5 weeks and not anything that is, not anything that's been startling or shattering. Other than the normal school business and people being concerned one way or another about how things are handled, but nothing that is monumental at this point.
Well, looking at your newsletter, and that, I find that, I don't like to be heckled or something in a public meeting. You can't even speak because people are shouting or in your case are being threatened and things like that. I'm sure some of the board members have been threatened in the past. But, if that's part of the position, I'm here.
Yeah, I would say I'm encouraged and we're encouraged by the direction we're going. So next steps, we have 2 more people interviewing and then we'll deliberate. So you're more than welcome to stay and listen to their responses as well as the deliberation.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Bill, we're going to deliberate, probably start around 8:30.
Well, tonight's our church league bowling.
You better go
Free
bowling.
bowl, so I'm going out to the bowling alleys to see how my team's doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, this is Mark Reinhardt. Mark, we'll start out by just letting you share a little bit about your background, connection to Mannheim, and then we'll get into formal questions.
Okay. My background, I spent 11 years working in engineering and then decided that during that time I had been coaching a lot, working with my own children as they participated in sports and really loved working with students. I found, ended up going back to school, teaching certification, spent the next 5 years teaching, coaching as a principal in the Hempfield School District. We moved around quite a bit. I was born in Philadelphia and lived in suburban Philadelphia. We moved to Illinois for one of my jobs in engineering, and then we moved back to the Bloomsburg area when I went back to school. That's long for you, my football fans, I'm sorry. And then we moved to Mannheim 13 years ago. We love the community. Really enjoyed our place here. We lived in Sweetbriar for 11 years, and then the last 2 years we've lived up here in Brookshire.
So next question, what is your interest in serving on the school board and what capacity would you bring to the team?
My interest is service to the community. It's something as an adult, I felt always an important part of my life. Taught it to my kids. I've taught it to the kids that I've taught. I was a social studies teacher. I did an engineering degree. It would have been easy to go into math and science, but I felt more of a commitment to the community. So I decided I wanted to be a social studies teacher. I taught government classes. I've had my kids participate in field experiences where they had to go out and attend school board meetings and various other government activities because I've always felt it was important to be a part of your community and serve the community that you live in. So if I taught that, I need to live that. It's the reason I got into education, and that's why I'd like to serve the Mannheim Central School Board as well. As far as the capacities I bring, I spent a lot of time in education. I've served on a board policy committee for about 15 years. I'm familiar with school board procedures and how schools work. I also have a good variety of backgrounds. I know your committees you have an academic, extracurricular and buildings and grounds committee. I see myself as fitting into any of those very easily. I develop curriculum for various subjects at the 7 to 12 area. I've taught lots of different subjects. Worked with a lot of extracurricular activities. I've coached just about every sport that you offer here on various levels. In my engineering background, the last 8 years spent in architectural engineering, working on especially HVAC systems and structures. So I understand buildings and grounds quite a bit. Every time Enfield had an issue with some building and ground issues, they needed an administrator sitting on their committee. I was the go-to guy for that too. So I have a good background that would serve the district well.
Thank you. What's the greatest challenge facing our district, and what is our district's greatest strength?
I'd say the greatest challenge is you never know what's coming next. Being in education 2 years ago when we were hit with the pandemic, we knew that was coming, right? We were all put in a situation where you needed to decide whether kids were coming into school or not. If they weren't coming into school, how you're going to educate them. So that kind of lit a fire under a lot of educators, making sure that we're flexible enough to meet anything that comes to us. We also have a changing climate in the country and in our area as well. You see the new homes that are being built. You look at the differences in our community. The Manheim Central community has changed quite a bit with the new homes that were built into it. But what the district's strength is its sense of community. You don't want to lose the pride and the traditions that were here and have been here. As I said, I've lived a lot of different places around the country. I've lived in large areas. I went to the North Penn School District. They graduate now about 1,200 kids a year. I lived in the Benton community that graduates about 40 kids a year. So there's a huge disparity in communities that I've lived in. And the one thing I find really strong about the Manheim community is their sense of community. That's important to continue as we see the building growth taking place.
Thank you. Next is 2 parts. So I'll ask each part one at a time. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
If I can sum it up in one word, I'd say collaboratively. As an administrator and a coach and a teacher and a parent, I've had to talk to people who I didn't agree with often. I shouldn't say often. I didn't agree with occasionally. And when that disagreement took place, I think it's our job to air out our differences in a civil manner. I see my job often as a person who can bring a new light or a new experience that we all haven't had or haven't seen, and just to make sure everybody understands where I'm coming from. And then if there is a difference, I think that gets to the second part of the question: how do I respond to circumstances? If there is a difference, it's my job to be respectful when I present my differing views, and also to be a team player when I present them to the public. The best example I can give as a football coach. Weekends, you go into a meeting with 12 or 15 other football coaches. Everybody's got their own decision as to what the game plan is going to be for next year or next week. And they're not always the same. We battle it out in the room, but as soon as you leave that room and you go before your kids, you have to present a united front, or they're not going to believe in you and they're not going to buy into what you're trying to do. And I see the same thing with the school board. When I talk as an administrative team, as part of the team I was at Hempfield, I didn't always agree with decisions that were made. But it was my job to go back to teachers, to go back to our students, to go back to our parents, and sell what we were trying to do as a team. So as a team player, I think it's important to present that united front to the board. In a difficult situation because your votes are public. You may not always agree, and you need to defend your point respectfully. But when we go forth to the community and the community says, you know, why are you doing this? I need to be able to present the side that maybe I didn't vote on, as well as I did the side that I did vote on.
Thank you. How should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsible?
Part of the process of the board, part of what we need to do as a board would be to educate our community. I think it's important for the community to understand why those three things are important. The quality of the education we provide, the quality of the facilities that we provide to our students is very important to community property values. As we increase the academic reputation of our district, as we increase the facilities that we can offer, not just to our students, but to our communities. We have wonderful athletic fields throughout the community that are used by the community. I think it's important that we let our taxpayers know that that's part of being a community. And we need to educate the community as to why it's important so that we do have those things. But as a district, we also need to be cognizant of our responsibility to our taxpayers. I attended something called Summit 2040 I guess it was been 2 weeks now. And one of the things that I took away from that was that they said, don't make decisions about me without me. Why I bring that up here is because it's important to understand where our community stands on these issues. Attend the school board meetings and you hear from 3 or 4 people on an issue. There are thousands of people. It's on us to find out, talk to our neighbors, talk to people we see at the grocery store, find out what people are thinking about the things that are important to our community and find out where they stand on them. So we have a responsibility to both educate our taxpayers and to listen to them.
Next question, how would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about them?
This is something that as a high school administrator, you deal with all the time. You have a fight in the school, a fight breaks out, and one parent wants to know what's the other kid get? Or what's going to happen to this person? And bottom line is you can't talk about things. There are certain things you just can't talk about. Allowing our community to vent sometimes when they have frustrations and simply being able to stay calm and respectful and let them know that I'm sorry, but there are just certain things that I'm not allowed to talk about. If I were, I'll share the information that I can share with you, but certain things are just not public knowledge. Understanding the difference between what is and what isn't is important. I have a solicitor for that reason. And when there is an opportunity that presents itself that I'm not real sure about, I'll listen to anybody and then I'll let them know that I'm not sure if I can share or what I can share with you, but when I find out, I'll be back in touch with you.
Our last question is, why are you the best person for this position?
I mentioned the experiences that I've had, not only as a high school administrator and a teacher, but as a parent. I've raised 3 boys. I have 5 grandchildren now. I've been able to see a lot of how school boards operate, schools operate from the inside and the out, and what's important to our students and parents. What's important to So I have a lot of experience working within the school system already. I also believe I have the right temperament. As you know, people show up at meetings or call you or see you in the grocery store and not always happy with the decisions you've made. It's something that I've dealt with before, and I have a good temperament to handle that in a respectful way and not get upset with people. So I think that's important as climate right now. I also think that I gained a lot of wisdom, not only just the knowledge of how schools work, but how best to use our resources, how best to communicate ideas to our community, when to bring them in, when to talk behind closed doors. And I'm a reflective thinker as well. I don't necessarily always need to give somebody an answer. I like to think about things first. I like to research things before I say anything I'm not sure about. But I had the experience where I know there are a lot of things that I can answer right.
There is time if you have a question or two for us.
I have no questions. As I said, I know how schools work. I know how schools work. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to hearing from you.
One more interview and then we'll deliberate. So you can, you're welcome to stay or you can go in an office still. Thank you.
Mark, we have one more, we'll start delivery as soon as she's done. So it might be 8:15.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. X.
Hi.
So everyone, this is Michelle Gingrich. Michelle, we'll start out by just letting you share a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into our formal
I attended high school where I met my husband. I'm now raised and have graduated from Central. I do have 4 grandsons coming up in a couple years. Being in Central, yeah. So that's in a nutshell. My husband and I are small business owners. We have a small construction company that we enjoy. Mostly remodeling and doing some light construction. So I get involved pretty much first time and do some of those jobs, clients and also the subcontractors. So that's my role in my career.
Thank you. So our first question is, what is your interest in serving on the school board and what capacity would you bring to the team?
Sure. Basically, I have been involved in serving my community
probably for 25, 30 years. My parents raised me to know the importance of giving back to the community. So I feel like this is an area where I can serve. I have served in several school boards, Manheim Central quite a few years ago, and then also at Manheim Christian Day, where two of my younger children attended for a little bit. So yeah, the capacity that I bring to the team is that experience that I can draw upon. I have one of the things that I would say is a asset for myself is that I'm able to look at the big picture of things and to just sort of stand back and weigh both sides or listen to both sides and to see how things are going to affect things in the long run. You know, is this setting a precedence for something, or you know, is this something that we really want to be, like I was saying, set a precedence, or are these something that we really need to be dealing with now, or you know, do we need to be setting policy, or are we just reacting, or anyways. So yeah, some of those are, I would say, some of the things that I bring to it. Common sense. For example, when I was a manager at I do have about 12 people that I manage. So, you know, some general management skills and dealing with people and clients, and those are some of the things.
Thank you. What's the greatest challenge facing our district, and what is our district's greatest strength?
Yeah, from an outside view, because obviously I don't have kids in the district anymore. But in listening to I listened to some of the meetings online. I've heard that there is a trend towards some of the students leaving the brick and mortar or the school district and going to charter schools. So and that is causing budgetary concerns. And so that's a very real concern. And I wonder, you know, is that a trend that started before COVID? Is it something that was just exacerbated by COVID? Or is it something that was a reaction due to COVID? So I think digging into that and knowing why, so that hopefully we can, you know, get those kids back in our school and be able to service our clients, so to speak, you know, in a way that is effective to them, or, you know, we need to figure out why that's happening. I would say another thing, and it's not just a school problem, is right now there's a lot of distrust, I think, between governments and you name it. So how do we build that trust? You know, Manheim, I think, is a very special community, and they're an incredibly supportive community, but I still feel like no matter what, you know, building that trust and having that transparency and just finding ways to partner to just really, I think all of that benefits the kids and the community to just kind of build those bridges. I guess that speaks to the strength a little bit also. It's our community. You know, I guess I don't have much to compare it to because I've always lived in Manheim, but the older I get, I just learn to appreciate more and more the spirit of Manheim, the people of Manheim, their caring, and how people step up.
Next question is a two-part question, so I'll ask them one part at a time. How do you see yourself working with the other 8 members of the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and CFO?
Sure. You know, I think it's incredibly important to work well. Obviously, the school board is a team. There are 9 people that sit on the school board, and it is not about one person. It is, we all have a voice, or every person on the school board has a voice and should be willing to share that voice. But beyond that, the school board is one voice then, once they've made a decision or once they, once they've come to planning something. And I think also then the school board's role is also then to support the administrators, the CFO and the superintendent, and the assistant superintendent. So it is imperative that they feel that support, and that is very, very team-like approach in how you deal with things. But it's just knowing that no matter what, it is not it is very much we or us.
You touched on this a little bit, but how would you respond in a circumstance in which you may not agree with the decision made by any other stakeholders?
Sure. I mean, you're not always going to agree. We all bring different backgrounds, different values, different ideas, but ultimately, after working through whatever the process is or talking about things, it's really, you've made a decision. So if the vote is 5-4, it doesn't necessarily matter. If you don't agree, the voice has been, the school board has spoken. So at that point in time, if I would be on the for side of the vote, if I would be against it, you know what? It doesn't really matter what my opinion is after the vote is cast. If the school board has voted yes, then the school board has voted yes, and then it is my job to get behind it and support it. So
How should the school board balance providing quality educational experiences, extracurricular activities, and facilities with the need to be responsive to taxpayers?
sure, that I think is the quandary of a school board. I don't think either of them should be on the short end of the stick. So trying to find that balance, that 50-50 balance. I think there are ways to, I am a fiscal conservative. I don't think that by being fiscally conservative, that makes education, that you're taking away from the education, because I very much feel like there can be a very quality education and also being responsible to our community. And I think that is very important. So that's definitely always the tension, finding how to do that, how to make sure that that our people, especially on fixed incomes, can live within our district and not struggle. So how do we deal with that, but also then have the programs, have the opportunities for our students so that they can have the best education that is possible for us to give them.
How would you handle confidential information if you were being questioned by a community member about that information?
Yeah, I think, I would just say, and it's happened already, and you just say, hey, I appreciate you asking. I'm glad you're interested in what's happening, and I love to talk to you about many different things, but this is one area that I just can't talk to you about. And so what else can we talk about?
And our last question is, why are you the best person for this position?
Why am I the best person? I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I am. And that's what you guys are here to decide. You need to figure out who fits into this spot. I'm excited to hear that there were 7 people who wanted to be on the school board. So I think that's pretty awesome. I bring, I think, a level-headedness to it, the ability to look at the big picture. I have some experience both in the business world and also on different boards, so I understand how things function and how things work. But ultimately, you guys will decide who is the best person to be on this board. I welcome the opportunity. I very much appreciate you letting me come out and speak to you. And if I'm considered, I will be very excited to to work with the community within the school here. I think the hallmarks of a great community is a great school, and I think the school fits well within our community. It's something that we'd really like to be a part of, but
We do have time if you have a question or two for us.
I don't know.
We'll be starting deliberation very shortly, so you're more than welcome to stay, and we appreciate your investment.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle.
Before we get started, we just want to thank everyone for your investment. It's inspiring that we have so many people that are interested in being a part of the board. So before we deliberate, we just want to put that out there because it is greatly appreciated.
Right. Reorganize, give you a few minutes. Any deliberation that we want to ask each other about, we heard tonight. To hear any questions on anything, and once everybody has ask any questions that they might have or want to say what they want to say, we will then go into a voting and call for nominations. And if we get a first and a second, I'll ask if there's anybody, do you have any other nominations? And we'll do that until that is all done. And the vote will be done by roll call. And it takes 5 sitting school board members to sit the next person. Anybody having questions about that? All right, deliberation. Anybody want to talk about anything or? You know, I realize it's difficult. When you have such a short amount of time.
I think it is great that we had so many people want to be interviewed, because at the beginning it was that, you know anybody who wants to do this? It's a testimony to our community that we have this many. It is a tough decision to make.
I wish we'd have that many running when we have openings.
I just want to make a comment to everyone. Thank you for everyone that came out, because it just speaks to caringness within this community that there's so many people who want to come out. So thank you, whoever it is. We appreciate everybody that came out there tonight.
And this is a 2-year, not quite a 2-year. They will go either go off the board or have to run. Robbie Osway's term would have been up.
Well, I think as awkward as it is interviewing up here, it's equally awkward to have this conversation. However, I'll just get the ball rolling. When I think about what I would like to see on the board, I would like to see someone that has a young family, someone who's going to be invested with that personal experience and that personal relationship with our school. So that's kind of the angle, the lens that I'm going with when I look at these candidates. I don't know if anyone else had something.
That's an excellent remark.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's a good lens. Equally important from my perspective is I think far too often we're fortunate on this board that we have folks that were practicing educators or are. And so I think that brings a unique perspective that many boards do not share in our Commonwealth. Not to diminish what folks bring from a business or other industry perspective, but serving as an educator and having experience in the field, I think brings just a different element to the service that it surrounds the work.
Have any comments?
I would agree with what Ken said. To me, it's definitely important that someone has kids in young kids in school. I think that everybody did a great job. I liked Mrs. Beachy and Mr. Wang, genuine. I liked some other people too, but I could get behind either one of them.
Anybody else have any comments? Well, if not, to open up for nominations. Do I have a nomination from anybody?
I'll make a nomination for Amy.
Do we have a second for Amy?
I would second that.
Okay. So we have Amy as one. Other nominations?
I'll make a nomination for William Larker.
Okay. We have a second. Second. And I'm going to try to stay as neutral as I can and let some of the and we don't have a second for Bill. Do we have any other?
Make a motion for Mark Reinhardt.
Do we have a second for Mark?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have a first and a second for Mark? Any other nominations?
And I'll throw Jordan in the mix on the nomination
For
too.
Jordan Blank?
Sure.
Does we have a second? Second for Jordan, once, twice. Okay, does not get a second. Not going to, not going to let you think about this for a while because it's such an important thing. You know, is there anybody else? No? Anybody want to make closing of the nominations?
I'll make a motion.
Second. All right, any comments? Okay, so we will then have closing of the candidates, and we have Amy and Mark and had a first and a second. This is going to be a roll call vote. Does anybody want any more deliberation?
And just to clarify, is this a yes, no vote for each one, or is this a Mark or Amy vote?
This would be,
Great. I think we're Amy, wouldn't it?
it's two.
Yeah.
Going right into the vote, or are we discussing first?
No, we can discuss.
Oh, okay.
Deliberation if you want, yeah.
Oh, all right, I
If
didn't.
you want to, does anybody want to discuss anything, or are we ready?
I mean, I just want to echo what you said, and that's that it's a tough call because I do support Mark's experience and what he brings to the table, definitely. And I also see the value in having, I don't want to say fresh eyes, but the perspective of a young parent in the community. So I definitely see the value in both. So I appreciate that. Are you laughing?
I'm laughing because I feel exactly the same way. It's just like, can we take, another more spot?
Yeah. It is a shame because I think all of them brought good things to the board, and all of them would have a place that they could
Absolutely.
niche at their home. And so I don't want to say that one was any better than the other. It was just that what we need on the school board now, and basically what we're, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd just like to say one last thing though, before we go. Everybody that was here though, just remember, another election is coming up, so hopefully you'll be just as interested at that point in time, and that's where everything will fall in the community.
You'll have five to elect the next time.
So hopefully you'll have that same passion at that point. 5.
So we
4
find
in 2 years, so it'll be 5.
4 in 2 years. All right, Mr. Howitt, please call my name last.
Dr. Frick,
Mark.
Sensenig,
Amy.
Mr. Gerhart,
Amy.
Mr. Bushy,
Amy.
Mr. Linder,
Amy.
Mrs. Walker,
Amy.
And that's the 5 votes that are needed. And we would welcome Amy.
Congratulations.
Stuff to you, so you know what the next meetings are.
All the notes, I already.
For everybody, thank you. It's, going, I think we are, there's one question about, is there any type of controversy on the board? I think I can honestly say, since the reorganizational meetings, I don't think we've had any problems. I think we've all been able to voice our opinions the proper way, and we get all the information, and same as what the public does for agendas. And when you come to a school board meeting, you should pretty much know what's on the agenda. But thank you, and please, next election, we need to get more people at least running. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Adjourn.